Hey everyone, my name is Lance Kind. I live up north a little bit into the woodlands, and I'm curious, Chaz, do you have a generator? Is that why you didn't lose power, or are you just lucky?
I was really lucky.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I lucked out because I had solar and batteries, and so I could generate the power and then cover the nighttime.
Yeah.
So
No.
it was. Thank you. Yeah. All right, let me
Yeah, plug in.
plug in so you can see what the presentation looks like. I believe there are probably people on online as well.
Yeah.
And folks, don't feel ignored out there. You can put something in a text message, and maybe somebody, maybe Adam, maybe somebody in the room will say, "Hey, there's a text message to pay attention to."
I'm watching.
And all right, cool. So this is a pretty nice turnout. Welcome everyone. I'm glad to see you here. Is this was it the topic that brought you here? I mean, raise your hand if you think, oh, CI/CD is what caught my eye. I'm curious what caught you here.
What it is?
Okay, people. And then raise your hand if it was just like, I just want to learn about Azure. That's why I'm here in general. Okay, so we have a general interest audience. And then now who is a hands-on keyboard software developer? Go ahead and raise your hand. A few, all right. And then I'm trying to think of how to ask about the rest of you then. Can someone tell me what you do who didn't raise your hand? All right, we have architects here. Let's throw that one out. Do we have an architect? Raise your hand. I know Adam is, Kim is. Okay, cool. And I'm a developing cloud architect. I'm still working on that.
There's some interns, some folks who are total new.
Oh, wow. Really?
Right? Anyone? Again? Noobs. Interns.
Oh, okay.
Noobs.
Well, welcome, Xavier.
Okay. See?
And who didn't raise their hand? Could you just tell me what is it you do?
I do IT for a law firm, so sometimes I have to create solutions, and Azure or AWS are some of the solutions that we use for the attorneys.
Okay. Baz, I don't know. You raised your hand. You were a developer / something. I'm thinking is what I.
Kind of self-trained, and I do a lot of prompt engineering, so I don't want to take too much credit.
Okay, right on. Anyone else want to tell me what you do? Go ahead, sir.
A little bit of a hybrid. I swing code because I like to quit.
Cool.
But I also teach for HCC, Houston Community College.
There we are. Okay, coal. Sorry, from outside of Houston. I'm new here, so I didn't quite quickly connect with that.
Oh, I taught like C# 103 version of C# class, also Python, but whatever the laws of C man.
Okay, nice. Yes, sir.
Bill Stevenson, Strategic Marketing and Finance. I'm also a substitute teacher in the Spring Branch school system.
Oh,
I'm Morris Middle.
okay. And you have a love for computing of some kind, I'm assuming as well.
Oh, yeah, I'll just all the way back to GE terminals, Western Union terminals hooked into a mainframe.
So
Not back to ENIAC, not that old.
right. Anyone else like to share? I'm sorry, folks on the right, I didn't quite look over there very much. So if I missed you, go ahead and shout out. Okay.
I guess mine's just like to be determined. Exactly.
You're curiosity seeking. Is that what we're doing? Nice. He's thrill seeking, folks. Watch out for that one.
It'll learn.
So yeah. So today's topic is DevOps, CI/CD, Azure, and then the last one is TDD. That's like 4 big topics to get today, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to turn into a hands-on coding demonstration today. So if you like coding, there's going to be some of that in there for you, and perhaps you'll help me when I get stuck, because we're gonna create something using the practice of CI/CD, and we're gonna use DevOps techniques to test and push the software out there. Does that sound interesting?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Now,
What's TDD mean?
cool.
GT on the TLAs, I think.
Yeah, no, good catch. Let me ask the audience if anybody has a guess. It's okay to be wrong.
terribly direct.
Ken. Yeah, right. Test-driven development. And maybe we should go through this list really quick. So raise your hand if you've used Azure and you kind of have an idea what that is. All right, that's good. About 50%. And then what about DevOps? Like if you kind of have an idea what that is, go ahead and raise your hand. All right, because that's really mysterious too. And then CI/CD. Okay, now who's done CI/CD? All right, good. And now we're down to TDD. So who has done TDD? Got some hand movement over there. All right, cool. So we're gonna do the set this. So folks, there's a hands-on practitioner part where we're going to be doing TDD to develop some code in C#, and there's the first half is a little bit of informational for those who are here. Maybe you're not so hands-on, but you just want to learn a little bit of high-level knowledge about those. I think we said 4 terms: Azure, DevOps, CI/CD, and TDD. Okay. So let me flip. Hey, go ahead, Kick.
Sorry, interrupt. Is anybody missing it? Oh, yes, it's.
It's yeah.
Okay, that's important.
These things matter.
Much I'm
Panicking, right? Yeah.
actually is not mine, it's my friend.
Okay. We got you. Teamwork.
Thank you, thank you.
Gotcha. Sad.
So am I projecting my slides properly on this? Is this my Teams view over on the right-hand side? Okay, cool. I happen to be in presenter mode for a second.
See you on the camera as well. We've got 26 people online that are in
Okay.
as well. But we've got a Scrum Master, Project Manager, Senior Azure Developers. Yeah, we've got a bunch of folks online as well.
Okay. So who am I? So my name is Lance Kind. I also have a Chinese name because I lived in China 7 years, Kong Mei Guo. And if you know Chinese, that might be kind of a funny name. We won't go there unless you know Chinese. But so I've been working in what's called an extreme programming environment since 1999. Extreme programming is a practice of software development that uses TDD as one of the practices. So I've been coaching people in other companies to do these things that we're about to talk about today for a long time, and so I've done a lot of things. I've done consulting as well in Asia and the U.S. And I also write. I write science fiction. I'm a podcaster, and I have a Twitter contact there, and I'm located in the Woodlands. And by the way, there's going to be you'll be able to get the slide deck here in a moment. So the company I work for is LeadingAgile. We help companies transform so that they can do things like TDD or CI/CD because, well, I don't want to, I got another slide, so I won't bury that. But anyways, if you want, you can text this number, it'll send you the deck. And that's one quick way. So I'm going to switch off this slide here, but if you want to quickly take a snapshot, go ahead. I'm going to hit the button pretty soon though. All right, here we go. And the things that we do for clients. So the thing is, you can't CI/CD, DevOps, TDD, those things. Like, what if you just decided I'm going to start doing those at maybe your company or your business? Is it easy to just decide to do that? And why is that? You may not be able to express it, but I'm sure you have some ideas there.
Like there were situations like in some of the clients asked me if I have a CI/CD experience. I mean, I have done the deployments. I have not done anything from the scratch.
Oh, okay.
So the configurations and the config files or something which is involved with CI/CD, I wasn't aware of that. So
it's like learning. Maybe I'm hearing about the skill, but even if you have the skill, what about all the other people in the company that are doing something different? Well, hold on a second. We have a team that does the deployment. You don't get to do the deployment. Or they go, hold on a second. Why are you writing automated tests? You shouldn't do that. We have a team that does manual testing. And so you can see you're going to upset the apple cart in a big way if you have a team that does all of these things by themselves. And so what that means is solving that problem, like changing the company's mindset and management and reorganization, is a big deal. And that's what this company does at LeadingAgile. And the reason why I bring it up is because the things you learn today, if you get enough people together, you could do it at work, but it's difficult. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything's impossible, but it's difficult. And so there's companies that go around solving that problem because sometimes your CEO needs to be on board before you can do CI/CD, or sometimes just your lab manager needs to be on board. And that's maybe very difficult for wherever you're at. But it's not impossible. So we're going to do some practicing of it today. You can even do it at home if you want. Okay, so what is CI/CD? So continuous integration is the CI part, and that means every time you check in the code, there's some activities that happen. So the word continuous integration, you have to decide, what does integrate mean? Well, it's a little fuzzy what it means. It frequently means at least build the code, make sure it compiles. That could be it, and that's what some teams do, and that's not what I would call a high bar. But a little step higher is at least run some testing against the thing that was just checked into your code base. And automated testing, let me be specific. So the other thing, the CD, continuous deploy or continuous delivery, there's like confusion in the industry what those two words exactly mean specifically. And the deploy means put it somewhere. You were mentioning deploy just a moment ago. And then delivery to me means you're going to put it somewhere where the end customer can use it, but not everybody agrees. So you'll see people with different definitions online. So we have to have this longer conversation whenever we use those acronyms because it's not so clear. Okay. And excuse me, today, how we're going to implement this is we're going to use Visual Studio, and we're going to use a Blazor single page application, something simple, something that we can get something running. And we're going to do this in code today, and you'll have access to that code. There's a link in the slide deck on how to get access to an open repository. So if you want to go home and try this out yourself, you can do that. Now, to set it up, there's the repo I'm using is on Azure DevOps. Has anyone used the repos in Azure DevOps? Okay, and if the folks, when I'm online, I raise my hand, you can just shout out and say yes or no or whatever, and I'll see you scroll across the monitor here. So, and the pipeline is implemented. We'll talk a little more about the pipeline specifically, but the pipeline's running in Azure DevOps as well. It's at least orchestrated by Azure DevOps. Okay, Azure. Now, Azure is also in the picture here because we need we need some infrastructure. So today we're going to use the Azure infrastructure to operate the continuous integration system. It's not running on my laptop. It's going to be running up there in Azure, and it's going to also deploy on Azure as well using App Service. Raise your hand if you know what App Service is. This is a little bit of an edgy thing here. Cool. Would someone like to share what App Service is? And go ahead.
It's a way to run either Docker containers or a zip file or a serverless platform to host your application.
And why would you ever want to use App Service?
Because I hate VMs.
Oh, right. Yeah, so you don't have to set up a VM. Any other reasons come to mind?
Yep.
Like what happens if it gets busy? You can scale it. I'm sorry, maybe somebody said that. I missed that. Yeah, so App Service is a managed service from Azure, so you can deploy your application there, and you don't have to develop a bunch of code on your own to handle scalability because the service will replicate it and handle it that way for you. Okay? All right, so next. So why CI/CD is hard? We kind of talked a little bit about this, is that there's two sides of this picture, at least. There may be more. The two sides are organizational, policy, governance. people don't want you to do CI, not because they're against it, but because they're not structured. And companies, they create structure to make things repeatable. And they don't do it just to make things, innovations like CI/CD hard to do. They did it because it worked in the past and it was repeatable. And they're really good at continuing that. And when you come up with a new thing like CI/CD, it is now not matching the structure. And so then when you say like, why are we doing this? This would save us a lot of labor. They go like, yeah, but this is what we do. So that kind of changes hard. The other one is, as we talked a little bit about, is just the skill set of the people who want to do it. So you could have a management that wants to do it, but then the skill set of the development team may not be in place, right? And then the development team says, this is too hard. We're used to doing it the way we're structured to do it, so let's keep doing it that way. So that argument comes from both sides, is what I'm saying. So we're going to go through some of that too hard part today. We're going to do some, we're going to do some TDD today, and it's going to be different than the way you normally write code. And since it's different, what's going to come to mind? What's your reaction going to be? It's like different steps. It might be a little confusing. It's a little bit like standing on your head. It's going to make you feel like it's too hard, right? And so just like when you get a new, I don't know if we have golfers in the room, but if you get a new golf club or you get a new, I don't know, bicycle, all these things that when you change something, it's uncomfortable. It takes a little while. It may be superior, but it does take a little while to get used to it so you're comfortable doing it. So what I'm about to, you're going to learn some things today that you can do at home on your own or at work, but you're going to have to like commit to it a little bit before it becomes easy to do the new golf swing, before it becomes easy to do the new whatever is going on with your bike or motorcycle. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Daniel has a question. Hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
You can ask it if you want, or put it in the chat, Daniel. Did you state me, raise your hand?
Okay, it's no problem, folks. Don't be shy, raise your hand. Let's talk about it. So there's 2 levels of testing now. There's more than 2 levels, but I would suggest that there's at least 2 levels in a healthy CI/CD pipeline. All right. A CI/CD pipeline does things to compile your code and see if it's ready to go to production. And there's the 2 levels of testing are micro tests and macro tests. Has anyone heard these terms? Let me just check in.
No, not me.
But yeah, so micro test is a term that came up because unit testing is the older term. Nothing wrong with it, but it started getting abused because people can use unit testing tools for testing really big things, not units. Excuse me. Wow, it's gonna forget how to cough that. Yeah. Sorry for those online. So the micro testing is testing one single function, one single method, one single class. That's what the responsibility is of a micro test. So it's just over here going to, check how if the code works like the developer intended. Now macro tests, and you can see the micro tests. I've pointed it right at what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on a translator, all right? And we're going to do TDD micro testing to build this translator. What we're not doing today, because I would have to teach you 2 things. That might make things even harder because remember, we're doing 4 things technically. We have to add a 5th, maybe a little hard, but maybe next time though, if you guys are interested. So macro testing is testing that everything, the whole system works typically as the customer intended it, is what we like to say. So most people who do manual testing are doing a manual form of macro testing. They're testing a whole bunch of stuff together to see if it works. Any questions on those 2 terms? So if you heard of unit testing, micro testing is the same thing. It's just a new word to create this dichotomy of macro and micro, so it's really clear. All right. So you can use, yeah. Cool. So we're going to do micro testing. We're going to use test-driven development. We're going to build a translator, and we're going to deploy it as we build it, feature by feature. So a little bit more on testing. This is called the test automation pyramid. And notice the area under the pyramid is, okay, we have 3 parts of this pyramid. Which part has the largest area? The bottom part, the middle part, or the top part? Yeah. And yeah, people.
Folks online can't hear the audience responses.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Could you...
Good tip. Yeah. So the bottom part, and yes, I know I brought in geometry. I'm sorry if I brought some mean flashbacks of school, but yes, the bottom part has the largest area, and this implies something. This implies that, sorry, I'm swallowing, getting water, that we have more unit tests or micro tests than we do other kinds of tests. That's the most numerous tests we should have. Now I said should, because most people are over on the other side of this picture. They're in the manual testing world, and most of their testing is through the UI over on the right-hand side. So think about your situation. Which pyramid do you guys have at work? Do you have a whole bunch of unit tests to, when you think about all the inventory of your tests, the most numerous type, is it unit test or is it testing through the UI? Raise your hand if it's testing through the UI. Okay. And then raise your hand if it's mostly unit tests. Okay. Now I'm very curious because there's a lot of people who haven't raised their hands at all. And I'm thinking like, they must be doing something.
Yes.
So somebody who hasn't raised their hand, how are you testing?
That's in production.
But that's a type, what type of testing is that on the pyramid? What are your customers using? The user interface, right? Or it could be a web API. UI could be, it's user interface. It could be a graphical user interface. It could be a web API. It could be other things. Anybody else want to talk more about that? Like how are you testing?
Unless I have a modularized system, I usually don't run unit tests, but I'm just kind of indie dude. So my usual thing is trying to read it out through the terminal errors as I continuously deploy it.
Read it out. What are you reading out?
I'm sorry?
What you said, read it out as you deploy it? The
yeah, the terminal errors, like the CLI errors.
Following.
Mainline interface.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just try to wiggle my way out that way. So I don't know exactly how that is because I'm trying to deploy it as I'm testing it.
Trying to deploy it as you're testing it. Well, first of all, you said command line interface, which is a form of UI, user interface. So maybe that's what you're doing. When I think about you, we're talking about prompt engineering earlier. It's all pretty sure it's all going to be user interface. That's an area. Prompt engineering, AI, very difficult to modularize it down to unit testing. And I don't know how myself, I'm still working on that myself. If you have a model, how do you test the model like a unit test? I don't know how. But if you have an idea, hit me up on Twitter or catch up with me somehow and we'll have a conversation. Go ahead.
I'm a little bit lost of all those components. I know the UI itself, but can you give an example of something that's uses test automation and talk about the unit example, component, and service?
Oh, okay,
it's
sure.
Like a basic, basic example.
So you're a software developer. You're asked to do some work. You pull maybe a requirement, and you write maybe a single function, a single method, a single class, whatever, how you write your code. And then you also write an automated unit, i.e. micro test for that function. And what that unit test does, it puts some input, there's parameters that your function takes. let's say it's a calculator. We'll make it super easy. So you test that your calculator, that the function that does the addition works correctly, the function that does multiplication works correctly, the function that does square root or whatever works correctly, etc. And so those things by itself mean the functions work, but you don't know when you bring up the whole calculator app that it works when you push the buttons. So now to test that, because remember I was saying like you kind of need 2 levels of testing to do to fully automate the testing of things. And that other level is something high level now to see if the calculator, when you push the buttons, actually does the calculations. Yeah. And you could say, but Lance, that sounds duplicate. That means you have to write more tests for the calculator to do like 2 + 2 = 4, just like you did in the unit test. Well, it turns out it's not that bad. You remember the goal is to have very few UI tests. I haven't expressed why yet, but I'll get to that after this example. The calculator buttons, if you've written any graphical user interface or any kind of interface, you just need to confirm that when you push the 4 button, that a 4 comes up on the screen. And you need to confirm that when you push plus, that the addition function is called. And so you just need to minimally, lightly test that the UI, or shallowly test that the UI works correctly, and leave the heavy lifting, all the different use cases or whatever, and leave that up to your unit tests. Okay, so now I should, first of all, does that help as far as the UI and the unit? Okay, cool. And then the middle one, the service. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I'm going to continue on Adam's comment about tested production. In this case,
yeah,
you don't direct 100%, you direct 5%, 1%, something go wrong, you can blue-green deployment. That's what I'm trying to get to. But there's different testing, but you know, one way to minimize it is to direct traffic minimally to test, and something go wrong, you can close the back button.
Yeah, yeah. So Kim was talking about blue-green deployments, and I think maybe also canary testing. Is that what the idea here? And we're talking about now testing the whole application, which generally is not a unit now. That's a macro thing. And maybe the application has a UI or has a web interface, has an interface, a user interface of some kind. And the canary testing allows you to test in production. Sorry if the feedback gets too bad with you.
Good.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, the canary testing means if it doesn't look good, like you deploy something new and you're nervous, like, ooh, is it going to work? You put it out. You put out one the instance out there. That's this new version, the canary, and then you send only a little bit of traffic to it. Maybe only a few people, maybe people within the company. Who knows? And then you wait and see if it can handle it. And if it can, then you can. If the canary survives, then you can go ahead and change all your instances over to that canary. Or if it doesn't, you can remove the canary and go back to your old version. That is, excuse me. The unfortunate aspect of this is testing in production. I mean, it's testing in production, but in a fairly responsible way, like it minimizes risk and damage. But well, there's no buts to that. That's a period. What we want to do is we want to shift left the quality checks closer to where the developer is so that it's faster. I'm getting stuck on this slide. I better hurry up here. So there's some laws of physics involved here. That the reason why unit tests should be more numerous is because they're faster and they provide better isolation. So in the lower left-hand corner, you see these arrows that increasing scope, you're going closer to UI. And if you're testing a fine little piece of something, you're doing unit testing. So because these tests are fast, they respond back within milliseconds, and they tell you pass, fail within milliseconds. So each test alone is really fast. It's only testing one thing. 2 + 2 = 4. Did I get 4 back? Great. Oh, 2 plus minus 2 equals 0. Did I get that? Great. It moves on. So the computer's running really, really fast to do that. Much faster than if you were working at the UI layer where there's a whole bunch of software that needs to work correctly for the signal from the UI to go all the way down to that method. And you will get better value. You get faster feedback as a developer because you find out quickly if there's something wrong. You don't want to find out a week later that something is wrong because then you have to spend time debugging. If you have a system that can tell you something's wrong within seconds, you were writing some code and you find out in seconds something's wrong, it's so easy to fix the problem because all you do is think about, oh, what did I just do last? Maybe just do undo and then rerun the test and says, yeah, you got it. You fixed it. So the unit tests are fast feedback so that you can have more information as you write the code. And that's why when in TDD, we're going to write code as we develop. And I don't want to spend a lot of words talking about it because you'll learn more by doing it. So I'm going to click next on the slide, but I'm going to stop and see if anybody has any questions before I go on. Okay. Because showing you that will be easier than telling you that. So TDD, let's define what this thing is. Right, it's there on the slide. Number 1, what's it say? Good. And then what am I supposed to do? It says write a failing test, right? Okay, so that's the first step. I got to write a failing test, and that's going to make my test runner show red. It's kind of a jargon or a lingo. When the test fails, the test runner should give you a red bar or a red signal or a red stop light. And most of the time, people skip step 1 and they write code, which is step 2, make the test pass. All right. So when you write your calculator, 2 plus 2, or a calculator that takes a function of 2 parameters and adds them together, you don't write the function first. You write the test for the function first. Okay. And then the next one, when the test fails, wait a minute, we didn't write the code. But when the test fails, oh, so we have to write a little bit of code now so that it compiles, so the test can run. But we don't flush out the code because we want the test to fail because we're testing that the test can fail. If you don't know if your test can fail, then you really don't know what your test is functioning right. And then step 2 is you make the test pass, and then you can then go back to 1 and do 2. 1, you basically are always, you're cycling between 1 and 2. But after it goes green, you stop at 3, and then look at the code and see if you need to change the design. Because we're not trying to design it perfectly from the get-go. We're trying to do the simplest thing that gets the test running to get the functionality. And then as the code grows up, we're going to adjust the design. All right, so enough words. You guys got to see this in order to believe it. So quick tour. So we have an IDE, we have Azure DevOps repo, we have the pipeline and infrastructure. Let me see how this works. Challenge of mirroring. One moment, I got to get my mirroring set up. Good. And so I just want to give you a little bit of a tour because once we start doing this, it's going to be all about the TDD part and we won't think too much about all this infrastructure, which is just going to do its job. And you don't have to think about it, right? But I want you to see it so you know that it's there and that it has to be set up a little bit before you can do this.
It'll be a little soon. Let's
see here. Bigger. Whoops. Okay. Well, that was quite interesting. I know what. Oh, I see. There's a magnifier. Okay, I don't want to do it that way. Have to watch out. I'm a Mac user on a Windows VM, and sometimes weird things happen. There we are. Okay, cool. So we're going to start over in Azure land. Just take a quick look over there because so in Azure land, I'll do the same thing, make it bigger. We have so the functionality we're working on is Pig Latin. Okay. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. It's a simple application. It requires a lot of business logic, and it's really good for learning something like TDD, because it's like you're working on your push-ups, so you can use this skill on other challenges. And so you want to do something with a lot of business logic, so you can focus on learning TDD, so you can take it into more challenging areas, like your code at work. So I have a oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my words here. So I have a group here, and then I have a testing environment, and then I have a production environment. And I actually stopped using the production environment for this demo because it just adds another step, and it just kind of slows things down. So it doesn't slow us down, but it doesn't add much to the conversation. So when we build this application, it will deploy into the testing area, and we'll call that good. You can, of course, add another stage to the pipeline, and it will go further. Remember I said we are using Azure DevOps for the repo. So here's the repo, okay? FYI. And here's all the code that's in there. And then we have pipelines, which we're going to take a quick look at. If you don't know pipelines, this will be a little bit boring. If you know pipelines, this might be interesting. Let's look under the hood a little bit here. So, but we won't spend a lot of time here. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a whirlwind tour. So the world of pipelines is a little difficult on Azure because there's a lot of choices. The Azure system itself has a pipeline system. Azure DevOps has a pipeline system. And then in Azure DevOps, there's a legacy, I think it's called legacy command line, there's a way to build pipelines using a legacy way. And then there's the YAML way.
The old way and the current way.
Okay. And tell me, Adam, what's the current way? See if I picked the right one.
YAML pipe.
Yay, I picked the right one. Okay. And it's not easy to pick the right one because there's a lot of content in the internet that helps you do the legacy way. There's content that helps you do it the YAML way. The legacy way has a richer UI, so it looks nice, but it's a little bit, I can't express to you exactly what the problem is with it. It looks easy to use, but it's probably going to be a short-term win, but long-term more of a headache is what I would guess.
Use pipelines. YAML for the win.
So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a tour. If you understand this part, great. If you don't, you got a little bit of a taste. I'm not gonna tell you blow by blow. So first thing I learned was, since this is a .NET 8 application, it's going to be cross-platform with Linux, for example. And this demo used to run on Windows. Okay, hang on a second. So I'm talking about pipelines, and this line here, the VM image, tells you what's going to run your CI, your continuous integration system. And I learned when I was building this that if I used the Windows one, it was slower than if I used the Ubuntu one. So I switched over to Ubuntu, and it got about a little more than twice as fast. And yeah, so that's one thing I want to share with you is if you can. And if you're on .NET 8 platform, then the Ubuntu one, I think, will solve a lot of, will be better for you. There may be reasons why you can't do that due to dependencies, but for me, it worked out. Okay, other things. Stages. So I have a stage here for building. I'm using this .NET CLI to get my dependencies. I'm running my tests here, so it's running the tests. I didn't collect the code coverage because I was at the time I wasn't happy with the performance of the Windows one, so I didn't want to make anything any more complicated at the time. So now this next one is the package. This creates a package for the app service, and then we get down to the deploy. So now notice deploy is a different stage. So these stages are running. There's two stages, build and deploy. And these stages are running in virtual machines. They're running in instances that are called spot instances. So these are low cost pieces of hardware that Azure gives you. And it will, you're going to learn that if you have two different stages, you have to store the artifacts that you finish in stage one so that in stage two, you can get them. Okay, just a detail. If you start going down the path pipeline, maybe you'll remember this and think, oh yeah, there's this thing about stages. And so I have to do this publish step, okay? So there's things to read and learn if you don't know this. I'm just giving you a little bit of a look under the hood. Just look at it. If it doesn't look fun for you, it's okay. We're not gonna spend time on it today. Okay, cool. So that's how that works. Let me think here. So I've given you the tour of DevOps, Azure DevOps, the repo, and the IDE is Visual Studio 2022. And I think that's it.
Questions, Lance?
Yeah.
Not online.
No.
That might be good.
Yeah, no, let's go ahead. Let's pause. I threw a little bit at you. We're going to get to the coding section next. So this will be it's going to get down to the details after this. So, and we're going to just use this. So this has all been set up. Now we're just going to use it. We don't have to understand it completely. Any questions? Like maybe we want to say like, well, how the heck am I going to learn how to build a YAML pipeline? And you go ahead.
So you talk about pipelines and unit testing. I was wondering if you have a suggestion for a problem that we had. I don't know if it's the best solution, but every time that we submit a PR, we run a pipeline to run unit tests. And then before deployment, we run integration tests. But to speed up development, what happened is our pipeline is valid for like 6 hours, right? If a developer submit a pull request, the pipeline is going to be valid for 6 hours. And unless you did any commit to his branch, it's going to be fine. But then what happens if another users, because I have a big repo, do something that will break your change, that's not going to be.
Can we mic this young man? That's a long question. And
oh, sorry.
Room is mic.
Oh, is it?
Room is mic. You might want to repeat it.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, and I didn't catch it all. It was a little bit. Some of it I did, some of it I didn't. So what's the problem again? Please.
You can just like. So what's the policy normally that you use on a big repo to run unit tests using a pipeline? When other users can also affect your code, right? Do you run it again before merge? Do you run after
I see.
hours?
Got it. Yeah. So the pipeline should be set up so that, okay, the question is, if I have a pipeline and I'm running and it's executing unit tests, how do we handle multiple people checking in code causing the pipeline to run? Is that correct? Yeah. And what you want to set it up so that it executes things in a sequence. So when there's a check, so your source control system is your gateway. And when somebody checks in, that triggers the build the code, and then run the unit tests. So if you have 5 people checking in almost at the same time, your CI system, your pipeline should queue it up. So maybe what your statement is maybe this won't do that. And I don't know. I haven't tried that specific scenario out. Most CI systems I've worked with will just queue it up. They just, when it's busy, it finishes the job before it pulls in the next job. So it will create a queue. And I can't swear to you that the pipeline I built does that, because I didn't like sit there and hammer it with 2 builds. I do know that, as documented, that I'm going to have a problem with deploys, because I think it's possible for me to have 2 deploys interrupt each other. So, but if you're using Jenkins, this always is solved. Jenkins will handle it. Jenkins is a CI environment.
there is an option in Azure DevOps called build validation, where you can put the trigger about what's the branches that you want to trigger the continuous integration to execute those tests. And you can do that in the pull request schema. So you can say that these branches will trigger the automation CI. And after you make a merge between other branches that have that trigger, you will test everything together. Maybe it is an option for you.
Yeah, it's a mono repo, so
Are you doing?
that's for every branch is gonna take some time. But it's a valid one, yeah.
Yeah, because in the repo branches folder, you can create a structure called, for example, feature branch. Maybe I think you have something like that. Feature branch, master, and then another branches. So you can filter the branch in the same repo. You can filter the branch by the trigger that you want to trigger the CI. That work for you?
Yeah, we have a similar.
Maybe we can discuss that later. Yeah.
Yeah, you want so we're hearing multiple branches, which is sometimes an unfortunate circumstance too. So for CI/CD, you need to have either do trunk-based development or you need to merge branches quickly, which branches and merging quickly are a little different. Those two things don't really go together. So what we're going to do today is trunk-based development. When we check in and we push to the Azure DevOps repo, it's going to execute the system. And when I go home, I'll have to get my son to work with me, and we'll try to do a double check-in and see if it handles that, if it queues it up. Because this is a basic pipeline thing. You want to be able to queue it up rather than have multiple instances in parallel running unit tests and build, which I think maybe it could happen though. So they know the deploy, it does it for deploy. I don't know if it does it for the build. I'm not sure. Does it? Is that a confirmation or is that
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. So, but the thing is, this is a thing that everybody needs to be able to solve. So I'm sure there's a solution out there. I'll have to go look into that. Cool. No, good point. So okay, so let's work on our application. We did the tour. So this is for a game company. You're all hired. Good, congratulations. For the next hour, we're going to build a translator so that people, when they remember Angry Birds, they're always fighting with the pigs. And I think it's just a communication problem. So the birds just need to talk to them to get along a little bit. And so we're going to build a Pig Latin translator. And you're thinking, what the heck is that? Well, if you went to grade school in the US, you may have picked this up when you were at school. It's an emergent phenomena that happens that some kids suddenly learns the rules to speak a foreign language. And that kid becomes instantly the coolest kid. And because he's talking to his friend and nobody else can understand them until they learn the rules. And pretty soon more and more kids in the school are speaking Pig Latin to each other. So it's a simple trick you can apply it. It's in English, but of course you can apply it to other languages as well. The rule set. So there's a rule set out there you can find on Wikipedia, and I've broken them down into user stories in this slide deck. So when you go home and you want to practice TDD, this will walk you through that. Okay. And remember, we could write the code for this, but we're going to do it using TDD because we're going to write tests. We're going to make the test pass, and then we're going to check in the code. Because guess what? What good is a CI/CD system if you don't have any automated tests? It's not any good at all, really. It actually is dangerous because you can't actually continuously deploy. You could slowly deploy, but that's not very continuous. Wouldn't you agree? So that's the whole point of this is as developers, if you want to do CI/CD, you need to learn to automate some of your quality. So the first test is we want to say hello, and we want to pass in hello and get back aloha. And as you go through each of these requirements, you will be learning Pig Latin. So don't worry if you don't know Pig Latin, you just have to follow along. So we want to convert hello to aloha, and we can handle maybe empty string and have it not respond anything back and maybe handle no. Okay. And then the stories keep going on, and they'll get more and more complicated as they go. So we're going to do some of these today, and you get to help me with this because I'm kind of lazy up here. I'm just driving the keyboard a little bit, but sometimes I'll ask you guys for suggestions to help me out. So does that sound like a good thing? You guys on board? Mm-hmm. Okay. And let's see here. So let's see if this works. Let's go over to the application over here. Now, if you are online right now, you can actually run the application. It's deployed. It's called Pig Latin Translator Azure Websites.net. Okay, so you can
Sharing your PowerPoint.
Holy cow, folks! How long has that been going on? Let's see. Here. Screen mirroring. Use. Listen to me, I guess. Oh, weird. I wonder how it's when that's down. Okay, so go to Pig Latin Translator, Azure Website.net. I can maybe put that in the chat, except I don't know how to do that. Thank you, sir. And yes. So there we are, and I can type in hello, remember? And what's hello supposed to return, if you remember your Pig Latin? Hello, hey, yeah. And we get back, wonk, wonk, wonk. Not the right thing, right? That's not right at all.
So it's Hawaiian.
The what? Sorry?
Sounds Hawaiian. Sounds Hawaiian.
Oh, right. So we got to fix that. So we already have a bug in production. All right. So we're going to go over to, I got to get my fonts bigger, I think, on everything. And see if I can do that. Sorry, somebody has a trip.
Bottom left.
Yeah, bottom.
100% about the middle. Or
Says 100%.
Like that.
Oh, I'm never used this. Cool. All right.
teamwork.
Thank you, sir. And okay, cool. So we're in the translator test, right? So we have a problem in production. But what's the first step? You remember the T to D rules?
Failure test.
Write a failing test, right? Okay, cool. So translator test. We got to write a failing test. We have a couple tests in here already. All right, public. So has anyone written any, I guess nobody had written unit tests. So I'm using something called XUnit. And you declare your test by typing fact. There's another choice. You could use NUnit or other things as well. I just started with this one for fun to try it out. Translate. So one convention with unit testing is to talk about what it is you're testing. So I'm testing the translate method on the translator. Okay. Oh, look, I already have a test here, and it's specifying the wrong thing. So I should just change the existing test rather than make another one, right? So translate hello. See, does that make sense when you look at the test? Is the test telling you what it's trying to do? And it says, I assert that I should get back hello, hey, when I translate hello. Oh, that's weird. That sounds like I haven't probably deployed, right? If this test passes locally, let's see what happens. Okay. I just ran the tests and they all passed. Okay. Now I have a feeling I haven't pushed this to the DevOps pipeline. So there's a little bit of a version mismatch. I also think that there's maybe something else going on here. Let me check. That this should be, I didn't think it was Pig Latin translator. I thought it was test. Pig Latin translator test. Oh, it must be, okay, I'm gonna have to double check that later. Okay, we'll see what happens. So let's see if we've got our code, what our code situation is. I can see I have some changes to push, right? So all my tests pass locally on my system. So I should be able to push this into the cloud.
Your machine.
Yeah, it works on my machine. Right. So but you know, there's been a change. It hasn't been checked in. So fixed, hello. So I'll commit all and push. Now we go over to the pipeline and see what happens. Hit refresh. Let's see when we. Pipelines. That's right. Successfully pushed to massive. What? What's going on here? See. Why I'm having a new pull request. That doesn't mean it's going to come up. Worried. It's been machine out. All right, I'm having a technical difficulty. Wait. I asking you to do a pull request and be pushing content to it. All right. So I have to do some troubleshooting. So where it worked earlier today. Let's see here. Progress. Sorry?
It's in progress. Pipeline is really, yeah.
Oh, sweet. I just have to be more patient. I guess when I'm in a demo, I'm not so patient, right? Holy cow. Adam, I was gonna get my how do I say it? My meetup invitation revoked.
Good.
Why would it take this long?
Yeah. Sure. Let's see it running here. I've done some very wicked things to get this working. And by the way, I have to, Chaz is going to sponsor my internet today, so they can't. So I had to do some wicked things that may have disturbed some things. Excuse me. Now, why? Because like I said, there's something a little bit fishy with that URL. I thought my URL was going to be the testing Pig Latin, not actual that one. So I might have to look into that because that Pig Latin testing, Pig Latin translator. And I thought I'm pushing to Pig Latin testing, not this one. So I may find out.
Depending on the amount of data that you're pushing, that could be the issue going through that cell phone.
Oh, it could be. Could be the speed is a little different than I'm used to.
Yeah.
Chaz, you gotta I didn't pay enough. I didn't pay enough for the high-end plan. Okay, sorry. I probably should actually look at the pipeline just so you guys can see what that's like. So the pipeline's running, and here's the job. So it built it. And now it's deploying to stage. And now we're going to find out if your URL I told you earlier, I don't think it's the right URL. That's not the one I remember using. So let's see what happens here.
Look at Azure and look at the web app.
Of course. Yeah. I'm waiting for the build the push, and then we will look into that. And
Hey, Lance, I
Mhm.
found the third URL. It's biglatin.azurewebsites.net. So without test, without translator.
yeah, we'll have to double check all that. Did it work when you typed in hello?
No, it's Elohai.
Yeah. It started with an H, you mean?
ELLOHA.
Oh, that's correct then.
So I guess it's
Okay,
without test, without translator.
without translator. All right, let me, yeah, he's gonna surf and find out all my little translators hanging out there. Pushing. All right, so this one, now this is the one with translator. Okay, that's the one I didn't, well, is it done pushing? I have to hit refresh. This doesn't quite do a full, so it's done. So this doesn't quite do a full live update when you use the pipelines. You have to hit refresh a few times to see what's really going on. Okay, now, fellow meetup member says this one.
Yes.
All right. Oh, this is a completely different one. This is not me.
Somebody else did that.
Yeah, right. Oh, apparently the secret's out.
Someone's building on the fly.
All right.
Look at yours in Azure and look at your one of those. Pick that one.
So it shouldn't be this one, though. It should be my testing one. Because remember, I said earlier, I'm not actually using the two-stage deployments. I'm just
Names
using
in the top right.
top. We'll see about
The load.
Oh, okay.
It's going to appear underneath the JSON view. And Chaz's network is.
I love how we're in my my cell phone's the blame for the internet.
Yeah, basically it is 100%.
This demo would go much faster without Wi-Fi.
There's the default domain. There it is.
Big Latin testing at your websites.net. There we are. And let's see here. So let's try it out now. Okay. There. Okay, cool. There we are. All right. So we fixed the bug in production doing it the test-driven way. Go ahead.
Right. It's a question on
Yeah.
line. What's the plumbing you've set up to have your Visual Studio hooked to Azure DevOps? How did you hook those up?
Oh, yeah. Hey, good question, Daniel. I'm just checking it into the repo on Azure DevOps. So the plumbing is Git, and then when I commit to the when I commit to my local repository, and I always do a push. See this icon here, Daniel, that I'm hovering over? So I'm pushing it to the remote repository. If you do a commit locally, it's only in your local repository, but I need to push it into my remote repository. And as the other fellow over here was pointing out, that maybe if I have multiple, if I shared my repository to all of you, you might be able to check in at the same time. You could fire off a bunch of bills at once, and it might not be so good. Actually, all the test runs will be fine. It's the deploy step that's where it gets to be a problem. So I think, by the way, running your unit tests in parallel should be fine. I believe that wouldn't be a problem because they're all self-contained. Okay, so we've just did a bunch of stuff. Now, I want you to really think about, let's see, I want you to think about this a minute. So you have a production issue, you know how to fix it. Are you going to write the automated test first, or are you going to just fix it and then go on and check about your day? So this is where we get into this principles, right? So if the company is losing money, you probably ought to fix it quickly and then put the test in later. The problem with putting the test in later is people fix it and they don't put the test in later, right? And so the discipline of writing the test first teaches you, you always have the test done. You can't say, oh, I forgot to write the test. So if you write the test first, it's impossible, right? And yeah. So now, next time we do a deployment, there'll be a test for hello and make sure it works right. Like locally, all of the developers on this system will run their tests before they check in the code. You always run all your unit tests before you check in the code. And then they'll know before they check it in if there's a regression. Does that make sense? All right, let's go see what else we got to build here. All right, so simple Pig Latin translator. Trying to find the time. How am I doing? We're at like.
You're fine. People are still here, Lance. So if they start drifting out, that's your sign.
That's the sign. Okay, cool.
It's time to wrap it up.
Okay, because I have more requirements, and I want to give you a little bit of a taste. I'm going to have you help me with this next one, and so we'll be interacting so that you can start thinking about how to build this. So I have another requirement that says that, let's see here. As a player, I will express myself with specific words so I can ask simple questions. So I should be able to handle any basic grammar word and get back the Pig Latin. So I should be able to, not just hello, I'm going to confirm that these other words work. That's what's going on right now. Okay, so let's try can. So we'll go back over here. Okay. Let's. Okay, so.
Still see your deck.
Oh my. I don't know why that. It must be when I switch out of the VM. I wonder if that's what's causing that to change its mind. Thank you. You should always be seeing the VM. If you don't, let me know, please.
I got you, Lance. We got your back.
Okay, cool. So we got to write. For this test? I'm using XUnit, so I have to declare it using this word. What's the word?
Back to back.
There we are. Thank you. And now I need to create a function. So we'll just put in public. Now, what's the API I'm testing?
Translate.
Translate. There we are. So if you had other APIs, you would just lead with that word. And then you don't have to use underbar. The underbar kind of makes the nice break. But now I'm going to express what's the purpose of this next test. And I think can was one of the words. So I'm going to test can. Now, here, there's a little bit of controversy whether if I'm really going to do lowercase can, but I'm trying to follow the .NET convention by having capitalization in the method names. You could choose to break that, but the problem is I find it leaks into the regular code when I do that. So I sort of just live with the case insensitivity. All right, assert dot equal. By the way, you're wondering why the translator gets created up here. Whoops. And every time a fact is executed, it gets a new instance of that private method. That's the contract with the test runner for XUnit, is that every time I run a test, it recreates this class with the new translator. So I'm always having a fresh translator, so I have isolation from side effects. Okay, assert equal. Remember, I'm doing can. So I expect, what does it expect? What's can translate to, if you remember your Pig Latin?
NK.
Nice. And translator dot translate and can. Oops, don't do that. Auto complete it out of here. Okay, semicolon. All right, and another parenthesis. Cool. So I wrote my test. Now what do I do?
Push it.
Oh, listen to Adam. He's being the
Run it, test it.
it's run it, yes. And because what is my hope? See if I get a failure. It might pass. You're right. But if I don't see a failure, I never know if the test actually is working properly. Sometimes you can run tests that can't fail, and you should. So this one passed. All right. So now the question is was that a problem? well, let's make it fail and see. So I'm going to purposefully misspecify it and run it again and see. Okay, cool. It can fail. It says down here, can't read it. I'm sorry. Expected NA, but it got NK. Okay, so I tested my test, and that's all working right. So yes, now we can push it. Let's see the test pass again. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we can do a push into Git.
Straight to prod.
Yeah. Well, it'll take a step. So if I screw this up, like if I put in a failing test case, it won't go to prod. It'll stop it. Okay. We can do a demo of that. Would you like to see a demo of that, or should I let it go?
Okay. Do you have time?
Well, let's focus on learning TDD, I guess, today. So let's just go ahead and do a push. Let's see, I got to put in a message. Let's see here, tested, can, and commit, and push. Okay, and now that'll be busy doing something. Over here. Okay, there it is. Ah, that was much faster. Hey, your phone's already giving me better service. Thank you, Chas. What? So, okay, cool. So let's see what else we should be doing here. We're not test driving code right now because there was some functionality that was built before we came into the classroom. And if I take a look at it really quick, oh yeah, I remember now. So I was practicing this before I came in.
See your slide deck.
I didn't, sorry? Oh, yes. Every time I change the VM, there must be a VM setting to make it not do that. Thank you for that. I started to remember another presenter here. Noticed the same thing. So I got to go look at those settings. Okay, so so I want to go to my slide deck. That's the problem. And I want to go look at the next requirement because I think all of the simple English word ones will work. However, let me try a few more here. Remember, there's a slide that had a number of words, and one of them was something like assert equal. I got to create some controversy here. So Apple should be what?
Yeah. Yay. Yay.
We're going to type it this way for a moment because I remember what the slide is. And I can't, if I show you the slide, I'll have to fiddle with the screen. We'll have to get this slide eventually, but I'm going to set up a problem or a controversy. Okay. So we believe by the rules as written right now that this is how you do Apple in Pig Latin. It'll turn out to be a lie later, but this is how software works, right? We start out, we build it the way we think it's supposed to be, and then later we get a new requirement. Translate or, and I run it, and build succeeded, but this is no longer testing only can. So we're going to call this like, I'm just going to call it can and apple, whatever. Okay. Oh, it failed. The Apple A.
An A.
I'm sorry, what are you saying?
There you should put another A, I guess.
Thank you. See, I don't know how to do it wrong. Sure. All right.
Oh, after the
APPLEAAY.
Thank you. You guys are doing great. Yeah.
Actually, if you allow me to be a smart aleck, I went to Copilot.
Yeah.
And you said something didn't look right. I said, is that the right translation into Pig Latin?
Yeah.
And the answer is if it begins with a vowel, You leave the vowel there at the beginning and add LAY at the end.
You got it. So pretend you didn't hear that though. We're gonna check it in. See here. Go move, and I'm going to switch to the slide, and then we're probably going to be informed of exactly what you just told us. So good job.
Oh, that's in there. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's back on me then.
No. So let's see here. We should see this baby running. And yep. Okay. So for fun, let's go check out our. Here's the one. Okay, let's check this out on here. Because I want to demonstrate that I want it to be really clear that I'm not just smoke and mirrors, that you're seeing this change in production. That's the main point here, right? So you can see it's doing, as he said, it's doing Apple wrong, right? And he just comes by and he tells the team, look, you're doing Piglet wrong. You don't get the right requirements. So if we go to the slide deck, then I'll have to switch it back when I get it there. We're going to move over to this. Vowels. Hey, vowels. A-E-I-O-U. You actually just add the A-Y and you don't move the vowel, as this gentleman just said. All right, does that make sense? And so now we have a new requirement. Okay, so what's the first thing I do? Where do I write code?
In production.
Right, test fails.
All right. So I need a new fact. And
Your code, you're showing this.
oh yeah. Thank you. Keep going. Every time I show the slide, that's a danger zone. Let's like switch this to coherence, and that might make my life more exciting than I want it to right now. That might actually solve it. Error. Okay. Thank you. So we got a fact, and we're going to public void. We're going to test translate. All right. What test should I write?
Exception.
Could be vowel exception. Now, if I do vowel exception, I'm going to have to write a lot of assertions. So maybe for our first test, because this is fast, right? You see the test run in milliseconds down here. Maybe the build takes a couple seconds and the test runs in milliseconds. Maybe we want to do several little tests that we can turn into that bigger one. So what vowel should we take on first? Hey, all right. So what word starts with I that we can test this with?
I.
I doesn't start with an I. Oh, like I will. That
Exactly.
I. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. And assert dot equal I. What should it be?
IA.
The-
IAY.
Yeah. And translator. Translate. Okay. Semicolon. All right. Anybody want to put any money on this? We can start getting out the TDD gambling system now. It's like, is this test going to pass or fail? Where's the good money?
Fail.
Think it's going to fail. All right. All right, cool. So by the way, just because this will happen when you're at home trying this out, this is called a coding kata. That's what we're doing here is if you forget to put fact and you write the test. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Our test didn't fail either.
I thought it was going to fail due to the fact I didn't see you enter in the actual exception for
Holy cow.
the violin.
I think a bunch of people just lost money. People were saying the money was that the test was going to fail. And it didn't fail.
Yeah. So how did it not fail? Where's your exception written in for the vowels?
Oops. It didn't throw an exception. There's an edge case. You happen to pick a word that our translator can handle. Like, what if I go over to, let me go over to production right now. Okay, the people who lost money didn't know this. I didn't think of it either until if I hit that button, it actually works, right? So what's different?
Yeah, they took the first letter, moved to the end, and put AY after it. But those are identical strings.
Right. So you just happen to pick an edge case that works beautifully. So what should we change this to? Because in TDD, the goal is to see a failing test case that forces us to add something to the code.
Nice.
It's just
Igloo, nice.
Tajma.
But it's more typing though. Thank you, Chaz, for picking what I was either. All right. So should we get the betting pool out again? The Houston, oops. Igloo A. All right, now where's the money? Is this test, do you want to bet that this test fails or passes? Where are you at? Raise your hand if it should fail.
Fail.
I think it's gonna fail. A bunch of people aren't betting, huh? All right, let's run the test. All right, it failed. Yeah, your money's safe this time. Some of you won your money back. Okay, so a couple points I was about to say earlier. This will happen to you. It happens to me sometimes. I write the test. I don't put the fact in front of it. What happens is you run it. If you think, oh, you got this green bar, you think you're ready, like, oh, it passed again, right? But you got, so just make sure, this will get you sometimes. Got to remember to put the fact in front of it. Okay, anyways, we have a failing test case. Now, what can I do? Because I want to be able to go here, type in Igloo, and I want it to be...
Gotta go write the code that's gonna render the correct result.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, so let's see if I can get this so we can fit it on here and see it better.
My problem was specifically that I chose the word hot.
Yes, exactly. You picked the edge case. It was beautiful. I didn't see it coming. And I was like surprised I passed. Like, no, I know I didn't write that code before class. So, okay. So we have this translate function. It has it's checking for non-alphabet characters. There was a test for that. And now we need to handle vowels. What do you guys, would you have a suggestion here? Is the test we did TDD. Now we get to do what we usually do, is write the code. But the key point is only write enough code to get the test to pass.
You just include the exception for the vowels in the code.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's test for vowels then. So maybe after this part, which checks to see if it's not really things that this can handle, like empties, we're going to add another if, right? So if starts with vowel, is that cool? Pass in English word. So I'm just writing the code, pretending that there's a starts with vowel out there. If it starts with vowel, we're going to do something else. Else, we'll do this stuff in here. Does that seem fair so far? Okay. So is this reasonable? I'm not going to claim it's the best design yet, but it's it's kind of getting the idea here. Okay. So and we can refactor it to the better design because we have unit tests to prove that our refactoring passes muster. So we'll have to make a private bool. Starts with vowel. Is there a more .NET specific pattern? Should say has a vowel at the beginning or something like that? Or are we okay with starts with vowel? So it's up to you guys.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. Starts with vowel. And oops, we got to take a string. And now we need to check it. So any suggestions what to type in? Okay, yeah, let's get the first letter. Pick English word colon first.
And do char.
Is this really going to return the first? Oh, I've never actually used this function. Looks like it might work. We could convert it to a char. Then we have to convert it back to string. I'm flexible. You could. I don't know the one that's going to get us there fastest. So I'm assuming this will stop turning red if I put in a return, by the way. Turn true. So if this works correctly, I've never used this function before. It looks like in theory it should just take the first thing in a sequence, and if a string's considered a sequence, it would be the first letter. So we could just do maybe we can do an if, right? And what's the test we're doing that we're trying to pass? What first letter are we testing for?
IA.
All right, space, turn true. Now I'm trying to write, whoops, yeah. I'm trying to write as little code as possible. Okay. So you could sit here and you could write all the vowels. You probably have it memorized, right? But don't do that. You want to test drive it. Otherwise you might forget to write a test. So I got a problem here. What am I doing wrong? If, return true. Stop that. My shortcuts are not working the way I'm used to. Okay, so if first letter dot equals maybe. I don't think that's exactly what you said, whoever spoke up, but I'm not. I think that will work out okay. All right, I'm gonna take out, I have to have a return. So I guess I'm gonna put false.
Single quotes around the A, because it's a character, because it's a carb.
Well, it turns out, oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. I don't know if it matters. Looks like it might be boxing it for us or something.
I think it's that.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just going to run the test, right? Oh, I see there's some red squiggly down here. I'm not sure what that. Oh, yeah. We haven't called. If it starts with vowel, what do we do if it starts with vowel? Do you remember? What should Igloo do?
The letter in place and we had AY.
Yeah, and by the way, we're doing Igloo.
Definition.
Yes, yep. So by the way, I had to change it to an I.
Pilot, yeah, the LA to the S. So you got to decide what your standard is.
So yeah, I'm not sure. So we're first of all, our test is about Igloo, right? So I changed it to I, and then we want to return what you said, English word. English word with an AY, right? Okay. What do you guys think? Is everything compiling? Yeah, it's compiling. You want to put any money on this for this test, or are you a little more nervous now? You guys helped me write the code. He raised a finger. He's thinking about it. He's like, yeah, let's do it.
1 cent.
We're gonna make some more money at Azure DevOps.
1 cent. That man is bad.
All right, let's go, Igloo. Come on, Igloo. And he won. Wow. Okay. So it does Igloo, right? So now what should we do? Do we push it? Yeah, that's right. Now this is where we're really talking about continuous delivery. If you already have delivered a Pig Latin translator that does okay job, you got a new feature, you fix the feature, now you can push it. Yep. And we should be able to see it perform better on Igloo now. Of course, we're working with a team. You have to pull down as well, but I don't expect anybody else is checking in, so I'm okay. So Igloo handles odd. or vowel case for I. Okay. And we're going to commit and push. Okay, pushing. And I should seem to look on myself. Wondering, see if I should be. Yep. Okay, cool. It's running. All right. So what should we do now? I mean, should we do another vowel?
Yes.
All right. Because we only do I, right? All right. So here's the idea now is, all right, I'm going to give you there's two ways to approach this. You can now do I, A, E, O, U, test by test, and that's okay. You got a lot of value from not doing that the very first test because you had to solve a bunch of little problems to get I to work. And it was a lot easier to solve those problems by just trying to fix one thing. All right. So now if we want to go a little faster, we could probably do a couple more vowels. We could do all the vowels maybe, but there really is value in not doing that the first get around because you had to figure out how you're going to test for vowels. You had to restructure your code. There's a bunch of little things that we did and made our life a lot simpler because we didn't try to do too much. So let's go ahead and I think we can grab a few, maybe all of them, all the other vowels now. Stop. Okay. Okay, igloo. So what vowel should I put here? Anyone?
Apple.
A and
Orange.
sorry?
It can.
Like with a P. But that's not a vowel. We need a vowel. So
Oh, yeah.
Eagle.
eagle. There we are. You had me wondering, like, did I miss another vowel? I haven't heard. Eagle. Eagle. Okay. And A, E.
Umbrella.
I, O, U. Ah,
You.
thank you. It's interesting that everybody's using the alphabet that they learned when they were in school. You're picking the same vowel ones that you learned in school. All right. Does that look good?
Missing an M in umbrella.
Oh, umbrella.
The end. The second.
Oh, thank you. Good catch. Yay, that guy's pairing with me. Thank you for that. All right. So what's going to happen when I run this test?
Gonna fail. Gonna fail.
Yeah, it's fail.
Anybody want to bet against that? Smart. Okay. At least I'll be surprised if it all right, cool. It failed. Meanwhile, let's take a look over here, see if it's deployed so we can try out. Okay, it looks like it's deployed. So, right, this is the old Igloo. This is a cached, it's cached. So I'm going to type in, I'm just going to click translate. I believe it will. I might have to hit refresh. All right, I'm going to hit refresh. Loading. All right. Glue. All right, cool. See, it's really pushing things to production every time we commit something. And it only works when you have a lot of automation to run your tests. We know we should have macro tests because I could break my page. My unit test won't know that if I break my page, right? If I stop the button, stops working or something like that. Okay, cool. Adam, how much I'm trying to be cognizant of the time and stop. Right. Okay, cool. So maybe should we get the vowels done and then wrap up? Is that what you guys would like to do?
Yeah.
I don't mean to torture you. So if you fat enough.
So we're still learning.
And you can, and again, there's a text message. I can show that number again. And then there's Yes, in the slide deck, there's you can try this at home. You don't have to have all the Azure DevOps stuff set up for it, but you can set it up if you want to. All right, so let's get this baby handling all the vowels. Okay, well, anybody have a suggestion on how to do this? There might be more elegant solutions. I know there's probably, I'm certain there are. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not really familiar with C#, but I was thinking probably in a list or an array that has all the vowels, and then you can just check if the first value is n within that array.
Let's do it. So put an array. What should we call the array?
Vowels array.
Nice, love it. And we're going to put those vowels in there as characters or strings, characters. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm going to say it probably should be. So, by the way, we know we have one failing test, right? And so after I make this code change, what am I trying to say here? After I make this code change, maybe all of the tests pass. If more tests fail, then we made a mistake. We created a bug, and we just use undo to roll back our changes. A-E-I-O-U. Is that all of them? A-E-I-O-U. I guess the test will tell me if I missed one. And it won't infer that, so I guess I better say char. Add array declarator. Am I forgetting something?
They did private char, then brackets.
Brackets over there. Okay. There we are. I was kind of starting to think that. I work in a lot of different code base, different languages now, and it's really difficult for me to remember the details on those. Okay, characters. So where's my vowel checker? Here it is. All right, cool. So we're going to see if we can get this to work. So what should I do now?
If first equal one of the character, the array characters.
If first letter and I don't know how it is for I don't know how it is.
Sorry.
Like it's at least if first letter is like in the
set.
Yeah. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I think there's a way. Let's see. This is a
Should be find.
Find? Is it find?
Or contains.
Contains maybe.
Vowels dot contains.
Oh, you want me to do the array side? Okay, let's poke around at that. The vowels contains. Yeah. Oh, cool. Got it. Yeah, that was it. I had it there.
Just return that.
Hey.
That one line.
Nice. Well, I want to say I love it when a plan comes together. We'll see if that's and we have the test to confirm if it's right. Okay. Does that look correct? Pretty good. Code's compiling. Okay, so when I'm going to run the test locally, right? Sorry, you're thinking, okay.
How does that read? Or if the first letter is in one of the characters in the vowels. Okay.
Oh, it's like a little bit reverse. It's saying like, I have a list of vowels, and does it have the first letter in the list?
Got it.
So it's opposite. What I was thinking, initially is like, oh, I'm going to say I have a string. I'm going to say if it contains the vowel, but you have to flip it around to work with this data structure. It's a little bit weird, but it seems like it's the most elegant way to solve the problem. Okay. Well, hey, what's going on here?
Hey.
What's going on?
Yeah. Why did this other test fail?
First. Your old test case.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
someone may have left their keys.
A phone or something, or
Their keys, their car
Oh,
keys.
if it's their keys, they're probably not. That's the. So here we're just discovered we have an old test case we need to maintain, but it did tell you like you got to think about this, right? It's saying like, wow, are you sure this is going to be regression if you put this in here? And you think, oh, maybe is this an edge case? Maybe Apple, we always just do it this other way. Maybe it's idiomatic English, idiomatic Pig Latin English. But yeah, no, we just need to get rid of that one. Okay. All right.
Oh,
All right.
all right.
Now what do I do?
Thank you, push.
Yeah.
Publish.
And so before, like if I put in Apple, I'm gonna review. Let's observe that it doesn't work in production, and okay. Didn't do with what I wanted to do. I can get dashboards. Where at? My angles are behind. Must have closed it.
Go to view and then think.
Get changes there. Those thank you. Yeah, I had to decide if I was going to do this in VS Code or Visual Studio. So I'm a little. It's been a long. Visual Studio I used for many years and then haven't. So now it's good. But
Yeah.
it all depends on what. So I was using VS Code, and then I thought, it's going to be a lot easier to follow the demonstrations in Azure if I stick with the same tool set. So that's what I switched to. But I'm not. I have a lot more years with Visual Studio than I do with Code. But it's old years. I was .NET, early .NET. Okay, so what do? We fix vowels. Okay, vowels are now fully supported or something like that. We're working. And we're always checking in our test cases and our translator. And I should have done the commit and push. I don't think that's going to work. So, this. Yeah, I can't tell you which one I like more, VS Code or Visual Studio. Visual Studio, I have to work in a VM, so that part's a little bit of a drawback, but probably for a quick job, I would just do VS Code.
To be on your Mac, one thing, actually.
The VS Code but that's legacy now. It's on its way out. I don't know if you knew that, but if they're going to stop native Mac support. Yeah, because I thought about it, but then I thought, I know the UI is going to be a little different. I want to make my life a little bit simple while I'm learning something. So I stuck with the mainstream tools. All right, so it's building.
Visual Studios.
You're correct.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Visual Code.
Hopefully I said, I didn't know if I said the right words earlier, but yeah, that's what I meant. It's Visual Studio.
And that was did one.
Yeah, no, it was kind of one of those weird things. And the drawback was like it didn't have the debuggers supported, so it wasn't a feature for feature situation anyhow. So it was kind of, I don't know, it was a little hard to ever see a future.
Hey, Lance, quick question here about this might be more a Azure question, but how do you maintain a repo for your YAML configuration? So I'm seeing that you're publishing straight to the cloud through the DevOps service/product. How do you actually maintain your YAML config if you're a multiple developer team that collectively contributes to your YAML? So do you make it part of your source, or do you actually have a separate repo that holds your config?
No, I don't have a separate. You can have it all in one spot. I don't know why you would. There may be reasons, but I don't know why you would put your pipeline code in a different code. So to me, from an organizational standpoint, I like to keep things that go together. And so I would prefer, personally, it seems like it's more logical to keep the pipeline with the code that it's supposed to support.
Right, but if you have a different DevOps team that is not interested in the code you write.
Oh, no,
Yeah, now we're talking
organizational.
enterprise. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how are you going to like? I don't know how Azure does it.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to see if you have any experience with it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. So the way I did in Azure DevOps, I didn't have to handle that challenge. And if I was an organization, to work with Azure, well, we have smarter people in the room than me on this. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I can help. So your question is how, if you have multiple developers and one pipeline, how that works? Who was asking the question?
Yeah. No, my use case is, let's say I have 5 DevOps engineers and I have 5 software engineers, product based. So you a product that is supported by 5 engineers, and then the DevOps team is basically taking care of your pipelines, whether it's Jenkins or Azure or all of that drill. What service or product does Azure have for me to store my pipeline YAML configs in a repo and then have it automatically deployed onto a service?
That's part of the repo you choose. So Lance has picked Azure DevOps, but you could use GitHub, and you would have the deployment pipeline as part of that, right? So you check that in. So he's using YAML. You'd use YAML in GitHub as well. That YAML is checked in, and you pass the configuration as part of either the GitHub action, or in his case, the deployment here.
Somehow I have to have a plumbing that will determine what YAML goes to what project.
Right. So you associate those. So the YAML pulls from the code. You configure it. You say, pull this code and push to this Azure resource, a web app, a container, whatever it is. So you link the two in either GitHub or Azure DevOps. Does that answer your question? So Azure DevOps is in his case, he's got his builds pulling from the source code and pushing to the Azure. So you can have 5 different projects, 5 of those.
And that's a private code repository with Azure.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And it has a pipeline, which is parallel to GitHub Actions.
It is. It's similar pattern to GitHub Actions. That's right.
Yeah. And then where does it actually end up getting deployed? Is this a container-based?
No, when he runs it, could you show the pipeline, Lance?
By the way, the Apple works now. Okay, pipelines here.
It's part of that pipeline. It's one of the steps in that pipeline. The last step is push it to the infrastructure. It overwrites the code. It actually zips it, pushes the zip file to the infrastructure, which is then unzipped. It resets the app, new code.
Right. So
Every time.
The unpacking of your artifact is something that's handled by Azure.
The last step, the code coming open on the web app. Yeah, that's right.
And that could be deployed underneath a VM, a serverless infrastructure, whatever that looks like.
Target a VM if you want.
Or even Kubernetes.
As a function, you could, well, that's different. You'd build a container in Azure DevOps, you'd push that to a container registry, and then you'd tell whichever service is hosting it, Azure, so AKS, Azure Container Apps, Container Instances, tell it, go and fetch this image. And it would then go. And that would still be part of his pipeline, be steps in his pipeline.
So the question was, how do I support okay, I have a separate team that does the DevOps work, and they have their own repository of configurations because they're responsible for maintaining the pipeline service. How does that work now? And I think Adam covered it. Basically, whoever builds this YAML file, you can program it to go fetch the project from a different repository. I'm hand waving just to be clear, but that seems rational and
a source. Right?
Yeah, in this case, you got a solution, and the last stage of there is being built is line 21.
Yeah,
and then it's storing the code.
But see, his case, he's talking about the team's repositories in a different location than the YAML, but I think you'd have to be more specific now. You have to.
But yeah, you could do that, but normally you wouldn't. Tie them together, check them in with the code.
I just wanted to see it's a specific use case out.
Okay, so let me go ahead and close this. Let's go ahead and close this, okay? And let you folks continue your what is it, Tuesday? So anyways, there's some more challenges that are coming up. And this one will be the one that throws a really nice curveball at you to see if you know how to do what's called mocking. So the translator is gonna be able to return to you the time of day when you tell it time day for time. It'll return the time. Now, test driving that is interesting because how do you write an assertion equals when the time changes? So that's the solution is called mocking, and it's a strategy for writing a test, and you're going to tell your application under test to use this time, and when it asks your code for time, it will return the time you told it. Okay, that's a little confusing because there's indirection here, but your test code now has to establish the time of day that your code's going to return in order to write an assertion on it. So this is a classic problem that will come up eventually in your life when you do unit testing. Is you're going to have to work with something. A clock, a timer is independent from your code. It's a dependency, and you're going to have to find a way to tell your product, while I'm testing this, use this time, and you know it's like 4 o'clock always. And anyways, that's a lot of words. It's another skill. It's a more advanced, but I'm just letting you know that's out there. Then it goes through sentences, preserve case, and it's kind of towards the end. If you have unit tests, you can change your code structure. Like I was saying, maybe the source code back here might need cleanup a little bit. Like maybe we don't want to have the if else.
We're still showing you.
For example, yeah. And I'm going to bounce back a little bit. Come on. Okay. So, thank you. So in this case, the code's starting to get a little bit, this could use a little cleaning. Like we have an else that just ends, and when we don't need to have an else. There's some things we could do to restructure it a little bit. And you can now restructure it knowing it passes all your unit tests, that you don't cause any regressions. That's the power of that. And you won't have to like wring your hands because you just run the tests. And the test will tell you in about a couple seconds, everything's okay. All right, what else? So in closing, here's the GitHub repo location. You can go grab that code if you want to go run through the kata on your own. And then the slide deck was at that other the SMS message thing. And anyways, you can connect with me if you want on Agile Thoughts on Twitter, or my email's right there. So quick poll. Would you like to do something like this again? And yes. Now, here's some ideas and some topics. There is high availability, i.e. we could work into the range of high availability Pig Latin translator. So we could use blue, green deployments to not have downtime, because we have downtime. We have to do a deploy step, and that brings down our production instance. We could do scalability. We could do infrastructure as code, meaning I have to manually set up the Azure infrastructure. I don't have code that does that. We could do the macro testing. We could drive the kata through Azure. Oh yeah. I don't know. This one is about, you could use Azure DevOps task management tools to drive the kata, meaning you have a story that says get hello to work, and then you can use that story and associate it with a check-in for smart commits. That might be only interesting to very detail-oriented project manager type people, but anyways, or something else. So folks on the call and folks in the room, you can use your fingers, give me a vote here. Or folks on the call, just type in 1 through 6 and let me know if it's something else, what that is. What would you like to see if we come back in a few months, try something else?
1 through 6.
1 through 6. So, if you have a preference, let me know. I mean, 1 through 6 is interesting. But yeah.
Three online. I see macro testing, another 3 online.
Interested in 1 and 2.
AI.
1 and 2. Okay.
I like both.
Sorry, what was that?
I like both 1 and 2.
Oh, 1 and 2. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm hearing and seeing 1 and 2 and some 3s are coming in. I heard macro testing. Somebody said that, number 4.
Let's try for his code.
All right. So it looks like if you're at
3 is
3.
the group, I would think.
Yeah.
I'm getting slow with that.
Okay.
Which one of these, if I put on my resume, will increase my salary?
Depends on the role you're going for.
Yeah.
So like 1 and 2, those are operations. 3 is operations. 4 is more developer, and the 5 is probably the least. It's not that, I don't know. It's a little controversial there. That's pretty detailed. So all right. So I'm kind of hearing 3s. Wow, there's a lot of 3s on the call. I mean, online and in the room. So it kind of seems like 3 is, well, anyways, 1 through 3 or 3. All right, cool. Well, thank you for the feedback, folks. Was this interesting? Was the pace okay? Do you want like more code, less talk, more talk, less code? What?
Just right.
All right. Okay.
Just right. I'm good. This seemed fine.
Okay.
Aside from, a few of the technical kinks, I think the runtime was perfect.
Okay, cool.
Suggest personally waiting on taking questions until the very end of the presentation, so that way you don't overrun on time during the presentation.
I see. Yeah. Right. Because it was hard to describe TD without showing it to you. Yeah. What?
Hey, can you put back to the first page with the picture?
Oh, sure. Like the title, right?
No, yeah, go back to the first one. Yeah. No, this one. More the one that you had the picture with your Chinese.
Oh, this one.
Oh yeah, let me take a minute. Because you look cool there, man. What
Thank
can
you.
I say?
That's a Dr. Evil chair I found somewhere, and I had to do a selfie. If you're ever in Bellevue, Washington, do you go to Bellevue very often?
I used to.
Bellevue Square Mall. There's a chair. That's where the chair is at. Well, cool, folks. Thank you for your time, and I hope it was joyful. And give it a try when you go home.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks all of you for coming out. Really appreciate it. Who learned something? Anyone learn something? Yeah, me too.
Thank Chaz thank you for your data, Chaz.
Yeah, but big thanks for Chaz, because we had Wi-Fi issues. He couldn't get connected, so the internet is courtesy of Chaz tonight. So thanks for just coming out. Hope to see you next month.